As web developers, we rely a lot on developer tools. So things like the console or the element inspect panel in our browser. And so since tools are so helpful for developers, the React team built DevTools specific for React, which can be extremely helpful when working with state. And so since we're working with state now, let's go check them out. And actually, since the beginning, we got this message here in our console telling us to download these DevTools. So you can open up your console, and then here you will find the link to the place in the React documentation where we then can find the link to the DevTools. So here is the link for the Chrome Web Store and then for the other browsers. But since we're using Google Chrome, this is the one that we want. And if for some reason this link here didn't appear in your console, you can just Google Chrome React DevTools. So yeah, that's going to be this first one. And so then once you're on this page, or on this one, which is the same, you can just download this extension and install it in your Google Chrome. Now I cannot do this because I'm on a guest window, so let me quickly fix that. And so now here in this window, I can actually use these DevTools as well. So hopefully you installed the tool, so just like any other Chrome extension. And then once you did, down here, once you have these developer tools here already open, you will see one tab which appears here, or actually two, which are coming from the React DevTools. So that's this component tab and this profiler tab. And since we're going to use this all the time, we can even drag, well, actually not. Now we can like drag it here to the beginning where it will then stay. Now here it says loading React element tree, which should be fast. So let's try that again. And actually it only worked for me after closing and reopening my browser. So if you see the same error message that I had previously down here, then please go ahead and do the same now. But so now everything is working. And so let's take a look at these DevTools, and in particular of this component part of the DevTools. Because again, there's another part, which is this profiler, but we will come back to that a bit later. So components, basically, as the name says, is for showing a component tree. Now, right now we only have one component, so only the app component, and so then this is the only one that we can see here. But if we had more, then all of them would be showing up down here, and we could see our entire component tree. So I will show you this again once we have that. The point here now is that we can take a look at all the state that is inside each component. Let's make this even a bit bigger here so you can actually see. Well, that's maybe too big. Or I can also make the entire window bigger. So just like this. So you see here that first we have this props, which is for all the props that the component that is currently selected is receiving. And in this case, we of course are receiving no props, so nothing there. But then here is the interesting part. So here we then have a list of all the hooks. And so here we have these two entries, one for each state hook that we used. So remember that we created the state with use state. And these use functions are hooks. Therefore, they are here in the list of hooks. But anyway, what's interesting is that we can now manipulate these values down here to experiment with them. For example, when we have a Boolean value, we here get this checkbox. And so then we can toggle it, which will then also toggle the value here. So from true to false. So basically we can do the same thing as in the UI, but here with the DevTools. And so that's very useful. And it's a bit similar to what we also can do with CSS here in the element tab. So here we can do similar things. So this was inspired by that. And then of course here we can also change this state. So we can go from 1 to 3 directly, or of course we can also try with values that we usually cannot access from the UI. So by clicking these buttons, we cannot set the state to 10, for example. But maybe for some reason we need to see what the UI looks like with 10. And so then we can come here to the DevTools and set it to this. Now, again, this is just a small demo example, so here that wouldn't be important, but in bigger and large-scale applications, this might be necessary from time to time. And so this is very, very important to keep in mind that you can use the DevTools for this kind of thing. So that's one thing, and as I mentioned earlier, it's also very useful to be able to see the entire component tree right here. Because when we have many, many files in a project and dozens or even hundreds of components in our app maybe, then it can become quickly out of hand and we can lose sight which components are where. And so then a component tree can become very handy. So instead of drawing that manually, we just come here and there it is. Okay, and that's for now all I had to tell you about these DevTools. Very handy, make sure that you install them, and we will come back to them in future lectures for sure.